Hey Gravity, what's up? Hope you guys are all doing well. Today I'm going to be speaking from James 3, verse 13 to 18, and the title in the NIV is Two Kinds of Wisdom. So what actually is wisdom? Well, it's not knowledge, as some people might understand it, but it's the correct application of that knowledge. The classic example that people usually give is knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. It's clear from what James says in this passage, especially in verse 13, that wisdom is practical. We can see someone's wisdom through the way that they act. In fact, in this passage, James uses two contrasting kinds of wisdom to drive home his points. He tells us about true wisdom, on the one hand, and its source and effects, and then false wisdom, and how it's so different and distorted in comparison to true wisdom. We've got a kind of double but structure here. We've got a little bit about good wisdom, and then there's a big but at the beginning of verse 14. Then he tells us a little bit about false wisdom, and then there's another big but at the beginning of verse 17, and he goes into true wisdom again. And this kind of feels like something along the lines of, this is what wisdom is, but this is how it's been distorted, but we can still have hope and pursue true wisdom. So I'm going to tell you 4 of the things that James highlights here about true wisdom. And the first one is that wisdom produces humility. Let me put it this way. To say, I am wiser than you, is a contradictory statement. If someone was wise, humility would be a fruit of that wisdom, not arrogance and competitiveness. If we have selfish ambition and are boastful, as James puts it, we're not pursuing true wisdom. We're pursuing what we think will benefit us most, often at the expense of others. The second thing is that wisdom is, first of all, pure. What has James been telling us throughout the book? We need to pursue purity and strive to be Christ-like. Wisdom is also pure in its intentions. It doesn't have its base in bitter envy or in selfish ambition. On the other hand, the distorted version of this is making decisions that are designed to benefit you above all else. An example of impure intentions for pursuing wisdom would be, I want to be wiser than this person to put them in their place. The third thing is that wisdom is part of becoming Christ-like. James calls us to show wisdom the same way we showed faith, through our deeds. We're to show it by a morally upright life and deeds done in humility. Distorted wisdom has nothing to do with becoming Christ-like. It's the opposite. It's choosing the side of sin and of evil. In fact, James says false wisdom results in disorder and every evil practice. Not just one evil practice, but every. It's clearly a slippery slope. The last thing that I want to touch on is that wisdom comes from heaven, in verse 17. James 1 verse 5, a little bit early in the book, says that if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So ask God, in faith, for wisdom. James makes sure that we know that the wisdom that we want to pursue comes from heaven. Wisdom is from God. We've already seen the alternative to this, the wisdom that is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. It doesn't come from God. It opposes him completely. So I just want to conclude by touching on the fact that wisdom is one of the communicable aspects of God. What does that mean? Well, we've probably heard the word communicable how it relates to diseases. So a communicable disease is one that can be passed on or transmitted. And so a communicable aspect of God is one that we can see in ourselves. Remember that we are made in God's likeness, and wisdom is one of God's characteristics that can be reflected in us. It's one of the areas in which we can and should strive to be more like God. Just like how we talked about mercy last week, and how God's mercy for us is what we emulate in our relationships with others. So let us seek God and ask Him to make us wise in a way that glorifies Him.